Good morning, everybody. This is Paulette and Heather with Paulette's latest creation, and this is gorgeous. This one is called Twinkle Twinkle. Make it any size. It's really not restricted to being a baby or a king or whatever. Like you could make it you could make a table runner with it, actually.
That's
you
right.
could.
You
yeah.
could.
Yeah.
And
So,
I'm going to show you how to make a pillow. So
perfect. So I'm going to say, take it away, Paulette, and let's go to town on this one. Okay.
Okay, so this one is from my stash. So I actually made this in the 1990s. So it does have that sort of era feeling.
She was just a teenager then.
Yeah. And it is not block based. So we're not making individual stars. But what we're doing is we're putting points onto the sashing that runs in between the stars.
Very clever.
So this was my inspiration, and I thought, well, there must be an easier way to do this since I had hand-pieced all these little points. And so I came up with a couple of different ideas. Oops, maybe we'll just put that there. So this is a little flannel, could be a little baby quilt. It's the same pattern.
Oh, isn't that pretty?
This one is actually all made out of flannels, but it's exactly the same pattern with a dark background and then light colored stars.
Yeah. And very nice. Oh, I just love that one.
And then if you have a stash of light colored fabrics, you can make all light backgrounds and make your stars a bit darker. So what we do is you have to lay out your background first. So you know, because on this quilt, now it's a little bit distracting here. On the outside edges, of course, we have a rectangle here with only 2 points on it. But in the middle of the quilt, you have rectangles that actually have points on both ends. So I usually lay out my whole background first. So I just have a few pieces here that are going to be a little Christmas pillow when I'm done. So I'm laying out a square, a rectangle, a square, a rectangle, a square, and we're just going to stop there. And then I would have a row that would go the opposite way, and this would be a rectangle, a rectangle, and a rectangle. And these little spaces that I'm leaving here are the actual centers of your star.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so we're doing square, rectangle, square. So I need to lay out a few pieces so you can actually see the pattern develop. And even when I have a big quilt like this, I will lay out my background first, and then you can still play around with where everything is sitting. You know, if you don't want two reds next to each other, then you move that piece somewhere else. So that's one of the nice things about playing with your stash, is you get to kind of decide where you want things to be and just see what you come up with. Okay, so now we have all of this little pillow all laid out. And these are just all greens from my stash. I've got everything from lime green to sagey greens and some very vintage colored ones here. This one is a fossil fern from way back when. And so I've got those all like that. And then I decided I was going to have red stars. So I have a red center I'm going to put in each of these spots in between. And
Now, do we have measurements on the instructions for all those squares and rectangles?
We do. We have the measurements for this quilt, which is you're going to cut 6.5 inch squares.
Okay.
And 3.5 by 6.5 inch rectangles.
Okay.
But this one I've made smaller, so I've made these ones 5 inches, and my sashing pieces are 2.5 by 5 inches.
Okay.
And these are 2.5 inch squares.
Okay.
So when it comes to putting the points on, what you're going to do is you would need to, and I do tell you this in the instructions, take out all these outside pieces, all the rectangles that touch the outside. So you're going to take all of those out because we're only going to put points on one end of those ones. So you're going to end up with something like this.
Okay.
And your little star points are exactly half the size of your sashing plus a half an inch. It doesn't matter if you're making 6-inch ones or 5-inch ones. You always add just half an inch to whatever half of this is. So half of 2.5 is 1 1/4. So I added half an inch. So these little pieces are cut 1 3/4.
Okay.
What that does is it gives you a little bit of an overlap when you do this. You have more than 1/4 inch.
Okay. So that's 1/4 inch. So when you're...
No, it's more than 1/4.
It's more than 1/4 inch.
Yes, that's the whole idea.
Oh.
So that you do not have to match any of these points.
Oh my goodness, taking the pressure off.
Yes.
I was just going to go into, like, don't you have to stitch right through that point? But no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Because it doesn't matter.
No, and
oh
I don't.
My goodness.
And I don't. Now, in this quilt, when I was hand piecing, I did do all those little points, and I thought, can't we not do those and have it still look like the same quilt? Still looks like stars. I don't think they're distorted too much in any way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So then you're going to be able to put these back in, and you'll have pieces that you can see how the edges of your stars are.
Yeah.
So then you've got these rectangles that are in the middle of your quilt. They're not the ones on the outside. And you can see that these require
They require the
star points on both sides.
On both ends, yeah.
But again, you still have, like a half an inch there, not 1/4 inch. So when you put these back in, now you can see how that star is starting to, this one is only half complete. But you can see how that star is starting to show up.
Okay, hopefully that's making sense to you guys. I think it makes perfect sense once that you actually take it step by step and look at it.
Right, and the directions do give you step by step for each part of adding to the quilt top. So you can make this any size you want. You just keep building your background as big as you want. This one, will make a nice little Christmas pillow. But I've used all different greens. Nothing's matching. These are only matching because they're samples. But you don't have to make your stars all the same color. So what if I put a different color in the middle of these stars? So you don't have to have your points the same color as your center. So you can see how that really changes.
What a great way to use up a lot of your little pieces that you can't bear to give up, right?
Well, and if you don't have enough of something in your stash, you can make the centers different. You don't have to make them
You could start with darker stars at the bottom and then move on up to lighter if you wanted.
Sure.
You could do it out of baby fabrics. Baby fabrics would be cute too.
Yes. And so even just changing this to a light green instead of the orange gives that quilt like now another different feeling.
Yep.
So, just try a few things, just cut a few squares and see what you think.
Yeah.
Or, use what you have. But, you definitely see the star very bright there because the background is darker. These are lighter. This one, the background's lighter. These are darker.
Yeah. Now, Paula, every seam that you stitch, do you press it immediately with the iron or do you finger press?
I press immediately with an iron.
Thank you. So do I.
I just find that it lays flatter for the next step that you're sewing.
Yeah.
And I think you end up with a better result.
I think I totally agree. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Paulette so wants to be Heather.
So even here, this one you might not notice, but I do have a different color in my star points. So it's two different reds. So
and it works just fine.
Yeah, it can be a very subtle change or it can be a very big change like this. So the directions are for this size using a 6-inch, 6.5 cut square and a 3.5 by 6.5 rectangles. And I'm forgetting now how big we cut that. Oh, 2.25. So these little guys are cut 2.25 in this quilt.
But all of the directions are in here to make this one.
This proportion, right.
Okay.
This is a little bit smaller proportion just for sample.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So easy way to use up a lot of your, your stash. And if all you have is one 6.5-inch square, then now it's used up.
Wow. What a great way to use up like a fat quarter bundle or, layer cake would be great for this sort of thing. Wow.
Sure.
That's an excellent idea. Thank you so much, Paulette.
Okay.
And we're going to see you in 2 weeks. I think I'll still be here. I think. I'm leaving on October the 4th. I have to. It's really hard work, you guys, but I have to go on a cruise to Hawaii. It's very, very hard work. But I have to go.
You will not be here.
Will I not be here?
No.
No, I will not be here.
No.
So there may be a little bit of a break for Paulette. She gets to sort of breathe deep and relax and whatever until the end of October. And then we'll be back and we'll be just flying, I'm sure. Okay, so thank you very much, Paulette. And we'll see you guys all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.